Welcome to Amateur Redneck Workshop. I'm Harold, and today I've got a couple of new stickers. Up there to the left there I got a Double Boost sticker, and over here on the right I got a Bundy Bear shed. Just arrived recently, or acquired recently. How's that? One arrived, one was acquired. Anyway, what we're going to do today is talk about safety Nazis and a mostly useless machine that I built, and it worked, and so I was glad of that. Of course, changing my techniques made it totally useless and unnecessary, which I guess it was in the first place. But if you're into shooting sports and you shoot hundreds or thousands of rounds a month, you find the expense is pretty big, so you reload the suckers. And when you're first learning how to reload things, you have little problems like high primers. What's a high primer? Well, I'm going to show you what things are so you know what's going on. These right here, these are the stages of loading a 45 ACP cartridge. This one's reloaded and ready to go. Got a brand new primer in the middle. This one's been fired, so you can see the dent the firing pin made in the primer. And this one's had the primer knocked out, and it's ready to go. Ready to be reloaded, you know, with a new primer and more powder. You see that little hole right there in the middle, the little black spot? That's the fire hole. And the way this thing works is this primer in the middle here gets a sharp hit by the firing pin, and that makes it explode, and it throws fire through the fire hole, appropriately named, I guess, and sets off the powder charge that's inside, and of course that builds up a huge pressure and pushes the bullet out the end of the barrel. Now I'll show you the fire hole here. Right here in the middle, you can see this nail just goes right on through there. I'm sorry, I'm not holding it right, but the nail goes right on into the inside of the cartridge, right through the fire hole, just like that a primer would. If you'll notice, this is a little pocket. It's got a bottom in it and sides, and when you put a primer in there, you don't want it to stick up above this level surface. You want it to be flat with it. If you use like CCI primers, which is a particular brand name, they're really hard, and if it's sticking out, the firing pin is likely to come down and hit it, and it won't set it off. It'll just move it down in the pocket a little further, and you can run it through your gun 2 or 3 times, and maybe it'll finally move it to the bottom of the pocket, and then the next time it'll go off. You don't want that. So what I made was a little device that would, if you had a round that the primer was too high and you looked at it and you could see it was too high, you'd messed up, it would push it all the way in. And that's the way you put primers in. You push them in the hole. The only difference being that my device does it when the shell's already got the powder in and the bullet, and it's already an assembled cartridge. Excuse me, the language. It's an assembled cartridge. All right. The way the primer works is this is not a very good picture. They go all to pieces when you blow them up. But what you've got is you got a little cup, and you get around to my hand drawing here. You've got a little cup, and inside that cup you've got I think lead spigmanate, something like that. I forget exactly how to say it. And below that there's a little metal piece called the anvil. Got 3 legs on it there, and when the firing pin comes down, it crushes this lead spigmanate, whatever it is, between the top and the anvil, which makes it explode and throw fire down through the fire hole. Here's a picture I blew up of a primer. You can see the didn't burn it all. You can see the 3 legs of the anvil there, and you get the orange, red looking stuff in there. That's your explosive material. Okay, and the way the whole thing fits together I didn't make an actual cutaway. I just, but like Mr. Pete does, although you know, I'm a fan. This shows where the pocket is in the cartridge, shows the fire hole, and sort of it's a very simple device. Put the primer in there, fill this end with lead, powder, shove in the lead to the right length, and you got a reloaded cartridge. So anyway, we get down to my little machine. I put it together, and it did a good job of pushing down any of them that I messed up and didn't get in far enough, which is something you can easily avoid if you set up your press right in the first place. But being a beginner, I didn't necessarily do that. Anyway, I mentioned it on a forum, and the safety Nazi jumped on it immediately. I know at least one, if maybe not two, that was unsafe and shouldn't be showing people how to do things like that, because you're going to kill somebody and all kind of things. So I almost got kicked off the forum, and I definitely had to remove the post where I linked to the video of my machine. And this all came about because of a lack of knowledge of the subject. So what we're going to do today is we're going to give you the knowledge of the subject that safety Nazi and that forum owner did not have. And who knows, they might come along someday and see it too, but I doubt it. Anyway, let's get on with making the device. Did I tell you what device? We're going to make a device to test the theory of whether exploding a loaded cartridge out in the open air, such as would be done by some miracle on my primer pusher, we're going to see if that kills me or not. You guys can take bets on whether it kills me dead, or if I just lose an eye or whatever. You've got pretty good bit of time here in the video to work that out and place your bet. You know, you can call your buddies and such, and maybe you can pick up a couple of bucks. All projects always start on the bandsaw. Seems to be true for practically everything. I'm using this piece of aluminum here that's imported all the way from California, courtesy of Chuck Bomarito, and I'm going to make a device here that will set off a pistol cartridge without it being in a pistol or in fact contained in anything that's just hanging out in the air. So we'll cut this off, and then we'll move over to the milling machine where the most of the work will be done. I'm going to square this thing up so it looks better. That's a Tom Lipton approved step. This guy right here will hold the loaded cartridge. You just slide it into there, and he's going to set on a little shelf down here, which you can see that'll be just the tiniest bit tight. And in here will be the spring, and the rod will go down this way, the firing pin, so to speak, so that it'll line up and hit the primer, and that should set off a cartridge pretty good. I'll have to screw it to something solid like a 2x4 or something, so that when I pull the string it doesn't flop over. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make little hollow cavities in between the black marks. Almost got all that hole. Alright, off to sleep. One thing for sure, you can generate a lot of chips, but I've got my little redneck version cyclone separator taking those little boogers and dropping them in a bucket for me, so I'm going to vacuum it off again and just keep on keeping on. Right back to sleep, guys. very last cut for the slots. Not removing much metal. Alright, now I'll vacuum all the chips off, deburr it, stand it on end, and we'll drill the holes for the firing pin to run down through there. And then we'll be ready to make the firing pin, I guess. I decided to do the drilling over here, so what I'll need to do is use this little square to make my hole fairly straight. And I think that's going to be fairly straight right there. So I'll drill right down through the thing all the way. And then of course I'll turn it over and make a larger hole in the bottom. This is the top, in case you didn't know, and that's the bottom down there. So what we're going to do is put a hole through the firing pin, will run through here, and the little shell holder will be sitting on the shelf on the bottom, and hopefully that will all work out just exactly right. We'll find out here in a minute. Alright, so when I ran that drill bit from all the way up here all the way down to there, it drifted a little bit, which meant I had to make this slot a little bit off center. But what we've got is we've got the shell holder here. He fits in that slot. The firing pin will come down this way, right through there, and hit pretty near dead center onto this little guy. It's sure hard to know which way to move things. And that should set off the ammunition. So all I've got to do now, other than picking out the spring, is to take this guy. I've got to sharpen the end. I've got to make a hole for a pin to go through to hold the spring still, and another hole for the other end so that I can use it for a trigger or a sear or whatever you'd like to say, and the little thing can pop right down. So there's not much to see doing that. I'll let you guys go right back to sleep, and then I'll get on this next step. Okay, so to make this thing bust a cap, to bust the set off the cap, you need it to go right through this little fixture, and of course stop here on the primer right there. So I've made a nice sharp point. Now I need to make a little stop for the spring, and maybe a little handle for the other end so that I can pull it back real easy. I'll let you go back to sleep for a second while I set that up. I make a lot of things 1/4 and this is no exception. We'll just thread him up there a ways, and I'm not trying to make a wonderfully good thread because this is a one-time use thing. I'm going to make it and use it, and it'll never be used again, so it's pretty much okay if it's not perfect. Alright, looks like that rod is turning in the chuck. That's what I think it's doing. Yeah, it's turning in the chuck. I'll get my act together and wake you guys up again. Well, my little firing pin is just a tiny bit off center, but I think it'll go through well enough to, to ignite a primer. So let's find out. Not to say this is the last test. We'll have to test it when we get a spring on it. But you can see it there. And let's see what'll happen if I hit it with a hammer. There we go. It worked. Okay. So I'll expect it to work like that when I get a spring on it. Hopefully my spring won't push it that far in, but nevertheless it was successful. So we'll go on with the job, and I'll have to go to Redneck Supply and see if I can get a spring that'll fit. I don't have one anywhere around here, and I'm not going to make one. Okay, so I made a handle for it in hopes of getting a few style points from Randy Richardson and a workmanship point or two from Tom Lipton. Alright, the next thing is I've got to get a spring to go on here, and quite possibly a little sear to go in here, and then we'll be ready to test it, maybe. Well, I haven't got a spring for this thing yet because of other things I've done. Yesterday I went to the bowling pin match, and if you've never been to a bowling pin match, what you do is you've got a steel table with 5 bowling pins, 3 on one level and 2 on a higher level, and you have to shoot those bowling pins off the table, and you got 15 seconds to do it in. And I guess I did about average for me, because out of the 4 times I got up to shoot, I had one time that was recordable. I think 13.5 seconds or something like that. So you could say I got a lot of room for improvement. Oh well, anyway, and today I could have went to Redneck Supply for a spring, but I didn't, because the boss lady gave me an opportunity to work on something else, and so that's what I did. I installed a new toilet, so that took a while, being lazy as I am, you know, and I had to kind of finagle the floor tile under it and that sort of thing. But what we're going to do is we're going to build drill a hole here that'll come right down to this center hole, and allow us to put a little sear in there, something that'll hold on to this shaft, and then when we pull it loose, let it flop down at the fastest speed that the spring will make it go. So you've seen a hole drilled. What we're going to do is we're just going to drill it. I can cut all this out later. I'm not using any lubricant. Alright, there you are now. All I got to do is get a little bit of that 1/4-inch rod and make it into a sear. We'll put you to sleep for a brief second and be right with you. Okay, I've got a little rod in here that I'm going to screw up the end of, and then we will cut a little notch on it to use for a sear. Let's say a notch I guess sticks in. We'll make a protuberance for a sear. We'll just feed this past there. Now I'm going to kind of guess at getting this thing rolled over 180 degrees. I guess if I'd put it in a collet, and I could have done that, it would have been perfect. Alright, I'm going to let you sleep while I figure out how to make it really straight. Alright, after having said I could have just stuck it in the collet, what kind of an idiot would not stick it in the collet? I don't know, I can't come up with an answer to that. Well, we know what kind of an idiot we've got, so we're going with him. That should be as thin as I could possibly need to be. I'm pretty sure that'll hold a a reasonable amount of a spring. Maybe I got it a little thin, but we'll find out when we get the spring. Alright, so as soon as I know, you know, where all the spring parts are going to be located, then I will take this guy here and I'll cut a little groove around it. It'll probably be pulled up, say, somewhere around there for the groove. And then this guy will go in the groove to hold it against the spring until I pull it out. And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to put a hole in the end here to put a string through, or a wire, or whatever I've got. So what we'll have is this guy will go in here. This guy will be up in, oh, probably something like that position there. And when I pull this guy out, pow, okay? And I've got holes that were already there courtesy of Chuck, which I think will be just right to mount it on something. And so basically we need to get the spring, drill a hole for whatever's going to hold the spring against the rod, and then put a slot in there and we'll be through. I'm going to drill the hole in this off camera. It's not very interesting. Alright folks, so there's the mechanism. I did a little bit of it off camera, such as putting the little groove in there for the pin, and the rest of this stuff, of course, you've been watching as we go along. What we're going to do is we're going to take this guy with a primer in him, put him in the shell holder. I'm going to drop him down into here, and this is a test to see if it will actually ignite the primer. And if that works, then we'll get a real live round and put in there. Alright, so wow, it worked, didn't it? Alright, so that should work with the real thing. And there we go. Popped a hole in the primer. Oh, there. Popped a little dent in the primer without going through. I like that. I've got it adjusted about right. So now I've got to get some more props here, and then we will continue on with the real thing. Now before I get started on being launched into this, I'd like to point out that this is done for demonstration purposes only. This is not to encourage you to try this. In fact, anything you see on my channel you should never do at home or at work or anywhere else in the world. This could lead to death or serious injury or who knows what. It could even cause birth defects. So remember, this is for demonstration and entertainment purposes only. It's being done by somebody that's done it before, maybe, and so that's your warning. Alright, so we're going to stick the little guy right there. And to appease the safety Nazis, I'll be wearing earmuffs and a full shield, full face shield. Be right back. Alright, so you can see I wasn't kidding you. There I am, earmuff, full face shield. Now I got to set the foam up there to contain any flying shrapnel or body parts or anything like that. Alright, I can't hear you, so I don't know if you can hear me, but I suspect you can. Remember, this is simply for education and demonstration purposes only, entertainment value. Don't try this at home. You guys got your bets in on what's going to happen? Well, dang it. Start over. Alright, we're going to start over again. earmuffs. Full face shield. Turn it. Got to put the shield on first, then the earmuffs. Alright, let's try it one more time. It could work this time, you never know. Darn it. Alright, just another technical problem. I'll be right back. Well, I bet you guys are holding your breath now. You know, it's hard to get something that holds together on this. I guess I should have made a little slope on my firing pin. Alright, here we go. Was you guys ready for that? Alright, there's a certain air in here of gunpowder. Okay, so let's pull this little guy up. Here's our shell case. The brass dropped out of there. As you can see, it kind of firecrackered. I think that's the term you want to use for it. Let's see if I can find the projectile laying around here. You can see it wasn't really overly destructive on the foam. Didn't hurt this foam much of any. I have a mess to sweep up out of the floor with all those little crumbs. Oh well. Anyway, it didn't make a hole in there, so we know that it didn't have much power to it. And personally, I don't know where it went. I'll turn off the camera and start looking for it. I got to clean up in here anyway. Alright guys, I located the bullet. We're going to swing the camera around, and that ought to be it, laying right there on the edge of that pile of grease stain. Right there. See it? There it is. Alright, I'm going to roll the camera back around a little bit. I can take this thing. There's not any damage to it at all. See if I can get it in front of the camera. Alright. There's not any damage to it at all. It wasn't moving fast enough to dent it or ding it or anything. Totally complete. I can use that next time I'm reloading. Okay? At the Full Metal Jacket 45 ACP. So it had a pretty good bit of powder behind it. And I'm not dead. I've still got both eyes as near as I can tell. Pierre, can you tell if I'm still alive? Stop eating those peppers. Good God. Now, we'll have to get Phil to stop his projects and come get your peppers away from you. Alright, so let's continue on here, finishing this video. Oh, I hope you guys noticed I used orange weed whacker trimmer string. Orange is the safest color there is, so you know we were safe the whole time, I guess. Alright, so someone is going to say, well, where's the device that caused all this discussion in the first place? Well, there it is, right there on the end of the reloading table. I'm going to zoom in on it pretty good there, so that I can go down there and show you how the cartridge fits. Let me back it up just a little bit. Oh, wrong way. Back it up in this direction. Alright, I'll go down there and try to talk loud. So, everything's takes a little bit of moving to get here. Alright, this is the shield to protect you from anything flying out. Alright, and this This is how you use the little bullet holder to get in there. That's the shell holder. And this is the rod that pushes the primer down. If I had a cartridge that the primer was sticking up past the edge there, I could stick it in the shell plate, set her down in there. Now this rod is too big to go in the little primer hole. It goes down and touches the back of the case, and that's as far down as it'll go. And all you got to do with it is just push it down like that. That's all you can do. Once it's got the primer, you know, flat with the case, that's it. It's all over. And that was what it looks like when it works. It'll go through this shell case, but it won't go into the, like I said, it won't go into the primer pocket. Alright, so you've seen the device that caused all the trouble. Now that we've done that, let's go see if we can find Bubba or Boudreaux or Ole or somebody. Oh, I meant to ask, did any of you guys win any money? Yeah. Did you bet the right way or did you lose? Put it in the comments. Ole decided to take a little trip, you know, and he wanted to go to Fargo. So he called the airline there and he asked the clerk, he says, how long did it take to fly from Minneapolis to Fargo? Clerk's kind of busy and he says, just a minute. And Ole says, well, if it's got to be that fast, he says, I think I'll just take the bus. Well, that's all, folks. Y'all try to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Leave a comment if you got something to say. And above all, remember, keep on keeping on. Bye now.